And gentlemen, we heard so much about Texas after the cold winter, all that extreme weather they had. But some of the other states that were struggling too, like Alabama and Mississippi, we didn't hear so much about them. Well, this is a whole month without water in Jackson, Mississippi, and they're struggling down there. So, this is NBC News, March 13th, 2021. The power was out, the temperatures were in the low 20s, and the roads bordered on impassable. This is Vince Gordon. He lost water in his South Jackson home in mid February. His family hunkered down with a generator and reserve of water they brought in preparation for the winter storm. But by the end of the week, the ice had thawed, but they checked the faucet and nothing came out. For much of the city, it stayed that way for 3 weeks. And although Jackson announced Friday that most of the city water service had been restored, the crisis isn't over. Mm-mm-mm. At the Global Connection Learning Center, a daycare center serving 59 children, there is still tape over the sinks to make sure the children don't use them. As much of Jackson remains under a boil water notice, staff members wash the toddlers by hand at the centers. So they have to use bottled water to wash these toddlers. Nancy Sylvester, the center director, takes bibs and cots. So she used bibs and cots to cover her home nearby Clinton to launder them. Mm-mm-mm. So, at the height of the crisis, at least 40,000 residents in Jackson and neighboring Byram were estimated to have lost water service, while locals are no longer melting snow and collecting rainwater in buckets to have the ability to flush toilets. The officials have not yet been able to prove that most of the city's water is safe to drink. Many residents frequenting water giveaways. So that's what is part of their daily routine. They drive around and they get water. That's crazy. That is crazy. Life these days is about just getting water and trying to make it work. So this is Alonzo Mabry, and they have been a resident of Jackson, 94 years old, have a 94-year-old mother who is bedridden. Yeah, that's tough, especially when you're taking care of somebody and there's no water you can use in your house. That's crazy. Officials hope to begin lifting the boil water notice by next week, but challenges remain. Absent an overhaul of what Jackson Mayor Labumba has called peanut brittle, like the infrastructure, and hundreds of millions of dollars to make it happen. The threat of the next outage looms. So, although previous cold snaps have caused water main breaks, yeah, that's usually what happens. That's what I was trying to tell a couple of people in Texas. Usually, when the waters, you go through a cold winter, when spring come and everything warms up, that's when you start having a lot of water main breaks. We have them up here in the Northeast, and it always happens at that time when the weather is changing. Now, we don't have as many, we have them here and there, but I can't say we have a lot of them. But in your case, being that the infrastructure is already out there for everybody to see how fragile it is, you may see a record number of water main breaks. Don't be surprised about that. Okay. Danielle Holmes, a field director with the Poor People's Campaign and a Jackson resident, spent much of the past month helping distributing water in the city. She'd seen commercials by international charities showing families and young children filling up buckets in jugs with water. Now this is happening at home. Holmes is not surprised that the infrastructure in the city, where some of the pipes predate the Great Depression, went sour. Yeah, they should have been changed those pipes. But again, this is the job of your politicians, ladies and gentlemen. So you can see how bad politicians have failed their own states. Jackson is a city with an estimated $2 billion infrastructure problem, the cost of overdue water and sewer overhauls, and a $300 million annual budget. 25% of residents in Jackson live below the poverty line. The city median income is about 39,000. Although it's Mississippi's largest city, Jackson, where 82% of the residents are Black, has struggled. Decades of white flight have whittled down the city's economic footing. All of this happened to individuals at no fault of their own, and yet they have to suffer, she said. For years, the city has struggled to collect overdue water bills from residents, while locals have reported receiving astronomical bills of $1,000 or more. In 2014, voters approved an additional 1% sales tax to make improvements. That brought the city $13 million to $15 million a year for improvements, but still falls short. Jackson Public Director Charles Williams said Thursday that his top priority is making sure residents have safe running water again. But he also spent time lobbying for funding from the state that could help prevent future crises. We're not done yet, he said. The city's largest chapter of a long history of infrastructure woes started February 15th when a winter storm pummeled Mississippi and much of the South. In Jackson, critical machinery froze at the city water plant. Yeah, y'all weren't prepared at all. Y'all weren't prepared at all. So they said they had nearly 100 confirmed water breaks in the city followed, creating another setback in efforts to restore water supply. A coalition of grassroots groups formed a rapid response team to supply water to residents. Organizers also provided cash assistance to locals who had missed work because of the storm or struggled to replace groceries that spoiled when the electricity went out. So they pretty much mirror exactly what happened in Texas. So they went through the power outage and no water, handing out water, couldn't use the water. That is crazy. That is crazy. And it's very dangerous too. So, before the recent storm, many residents said a deep freeze in 2018 was a warning shot. Frigid temperatures caused a streak of water main breaks, leaving some locals without water for the week. The event also shut down the city's schools for several days. Many of the district campuses lacked enough water pressure to flush toilets or heat up buildings. That same month, the city council signaled their support for potential litigation against a private company charged with upgrading the city's water billing system, resulting in an eventual settlement in 2020. Jackson received about $60 million in funds, but steep expenses remain. The past few weeks have further exposed the fragility of the city's water system. As crews work to restore service, the city legislation delegation began lobbying top officials in the state for reprieve. A letter to the state's Republican leadership, the congressional delegation requesting $47 million in aid. Wow. You know, This is really sad. Here you are, the richest nation in the world, and your infrastructure is probably equivalent to somewhere like Taiwan. I mean, this is really sad. It just makes me laugh as these stories come out, ladies and gentlemen, because these people always talk a good game. They always want you to believe they can do this, they are the best at that, and they're the best at this. And now you're looking at the band aid coming off, and America is just riddled with all kinds of problems. And you got these stupid ass politicians sitting there giving money away to other countries and not fixing all the problems right here at home. It's like it's wallpaper and they just walk past it like they don't notice anything. This should never have happened in the South when the weather got cold. They should have been able to get through that with no problem. But because you got so many people coming and going in and out of office, and they are just sitting there and not doing the job that they really should be doing. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.